everybody out there in comic book land. My name is George Serrano, aka The Don, and if you're listening to this, you can only be here for one reason, and that's a brand new episode of the Major Issues Podcast, brought to you by ComicBook Clique. And as always, I am never alone. Sir, introduce yourself.
I am your Cloudus Maximus, aka not Batman.
Cloudus Maximus is in studio, and this is a continuation of sorts because today we're covering City of Owls, Volume 2 of Batman's New 52 mythos. And this is a continuation because Cloudus Maximus was here to cover Court of Owls, which was Volume 1. Mm-hmm. So we're just continuing Scott Snyder's epic telling of the legendary Court of Owls, Gotham, Batman. We got a little bit of Mr. Freeze origin in here, the creation of Harper Row. We got a lot of big things in this volume. But Cloudus, before we do that, I have something I have to do, which is last week we covered No Justice. Mm-hmm. And I forgot a very, very, very important detail. So I just have to go ahead and explain that really quickly before we get into our thing. And that is, do you believe at the end of that story, because of his bravery, Green Arrow, Martian Manhunter handed him a box saying that that box is the key to destroying the Justice League, and he's the only man trusted to have said box. So Green Arrow's annual comic starts off with him in the box, like, why did they give this to me?
Wow, that's bananas.
And I actually think he has in the trunk of his car. So I don't know if that's a setup for another like Tower of Babel, like another Batman with his.
If anything, I guess he'd be the least likely anybody would think he would have the box because he doesn't have any powers or anything like that. You know what I mean?
I've always said that it would be cool to do that storyline. The Batman has contingency plans for the Justice League storyline that gets taken and then used against them. Mm-hmm. I always said you could do that in Arrow. You could always have Arrow have something for Barry, something for Supergirl, stuff like that, Mr. Terrific, and then they all get captured, and it's like, well, who had our weaknesses? And Ollie's like, you failed this city. But yeah, so Ollie, seemingly with the most dangerous weapon in the DC universe at the moment. So I had to go ahead and let people know that, just in case they were wondering where that came off of this.
Is this like a regular box, or is this like a box of the mother variety?
No, it looks like a regular. I mean, it has like a cool little, like maybe like a compass thing on it, but it looks like a regular maybe wooden box or something. Like it's not out of any kind of technology or anything. So I'm really curious as to what could be the downfall of the Justice League. But we're not here to talk all Justice League, just the Man in Black, just the Dark Knight, the world's greatest detective, Batman, and Batman City of Owls. Like I said, Volume 2. What were your thoughts on this? What were your thoughts on this comic?
This was my first Batman comic I picked up. So much, it was so good to me that I wanted to keep on at it. So I wanted, and you had told me that there was more to it. Right. So I wanted to read Volume 2, and Volume 2 is actually pretty good.
Yeah, this is...
We got some things in here.
This is an episode stretch. I believe that goes up to... I think that's the Volume 2 is about 6 issues. And you have a bunch of issues. We did 7 issues on the first run. So you're going in, order here with this story that Scott Snyder is telling. Last time we were on this podcast, you were talking about how the first one made you a little bit more of a fan of Bruce Wayne and Batman. Did you get anything else from this run at all, or this volume? Was there anything that changed for you? Do you still dig Batman?
Yeah, if anything, it's more, because in the second one, I get more of his badassery and dark knighting, so yeah. I'm really glad I'm really glad I got to get that in this, because everybody from what they've told me, and especially for you, what you've told me, Court of Owls is pretty damn good. To me, actually more than pretty damn good, because you get to see Batman not care whenever he doesn't want to care. You know what I mean? Whenever he's had enough.
Last time we left off, Batman had battled one Talon in a labyrinth. Yep. He had been driven crazy. He had been ripped apart. He had been. They took all his gadgets from him. They starved him. They dehydrated him, and they stalked him. and he
Batman on empty.
And he was driven mad. And this was one talent.
Yeah, it was one talent.
At the end of that story ends with them releasing a whole bunch of
jumping
talents.
off of the balconies, going into Gotham. Yeah, crazy.
Into the city. And just expanding on the whole Court of Owls lore and mythos. And the Court of Owls is really just a version of what you would call like the Illuminati or the Freemasons. What do you think about these ideas of like the secret society pulling strings in the back? Do you think that
I like the way they put it into Batman? How they said that they were always there,
right?
Even from back in old Gotham, they were always there. You see in one of the flashbacks in the book, you have Alfred's dad running from one of the Talons and
Jarvis.
Oh, there you go, Jarvis.
Jarvis Pennyworth.
So I thought to have that and to give some insight as to how long they've been around, and even from when they give you that flashback with Jarvis Pennyworth, you kind of still feel like they were still even around even before that in a way. You know what I mean?
Definitely. And they say that they've been around for a while. Do you believe that there's one in real life? Do you believe that there's a secret society pulling the strings?
There's enough powerful people out there, so gotta be a squad out there or something like that.
But just like in real life and in this book, once that curtain gets pulled back, it changes how you see the entire world.
Yeah,
because now your decisions are not yours; they're getting pulled by some secret shadowy figure in the background. And in this book, it is the Court of Owls. Everything that has happened up until this point, it kind of stated that it's happened with the permission of the Owls. Like it would not be happening if it wasn't for the Owls, or just I guess at least allowing them to exist. And so in this, it's cool because Scott Snyder just starts writing this book, Volume 1 and Volume 2. He's written a couple Batman stories prior to this, but this is him on the actual, run. This is the Batman.
On the forefront.
Exactly, the Batman comic. Not a side comic, not a one-shot. The actual Batman comic. And he was able to create the exact opposite of Bruce Wayne, where a lot of times like you got Flash and Reverse Flash, right? Or you'll get the villain who has heat powers, and they'll fight the villain who has cold powers. In this, Batman doesn't really have an opposite. I guess you would say Joker, as far as being like Batman is like on the narrow, and Joker is a little bit crazy, but you kind of got to be crazy to be Batman too. So it's not an exact opposite. But an owl is a natural predator to bats. They actually eat bats, and
I think that made it actually pretty damn cool too.
Right,
that was a nice real thing.
Because bats, for the most part, bats are little things. They're not going to attack us, right? They're not going to eat us. Neither will owls. But I'm saying that there's a lot of fear behind bats, even though they don't do anything, right? Yeah. There's like a lot of woo and like vampires and Halloween and all this other kind of stuff. But owls also have that kind of mythos where, they're used for magic, like in Harry Potter, or you're wise, right? Wise like an owl. You have this ancient knowledge, and there's something mysterious about owls because you barely see them. But these things hunt in the night, and they've been known to kill bats without bats noticing, like in flight. Bats are flying, and then they'll just be snatched up. And just like real life owls, what do they use to snatch up the bat? Their talons.
Their sharp talons, Napoleon.
Yeah, their talons. So in this book, the talons are the assassins of the Court of Owls. And you get this, again, play on what the opposite is, because Batman's the world's greatest detective. Give him a trace, and he will follow it and he will find it, and he will find it, and he will get it for you. The Court of Owls, and especially the talons, are assassins. Their main key is to not have any trace of anything. So these guys are polar opposites. Batman is looking for something that doesn't want to be found, that legitimately doesn't want to be found. And he thinks that he has like a little bit of an idea of what these guys are and what they're about, and their threat levels and stuff. But we find out in this story how much he really kind of doesn't know, because while he's chilling in the house,
don't know.
while he's hanging out in the house, bandaged from his last adventure with the court, he's just looking over.
Yeah, fresh off the labyrinth.
Yeah, he's looking over Gotham. He's like, I don't know nothing about
Yeah,
Gotham.
I was like, I thought I knew this city. Oh man, this city knows me, but I don't know Gotham.
And he kind of says, the city operates behind my back.
Depressed, right?
Yeah, he's like, I can't believe I've been trying to save this city. He's talking about like almost like it's like somebody close to him, and the city's been operating behind my back, And then all of a sudden they hear like a noise, and Batman's like, I'm going to the cave.
They're here, man. Yep, that's the first. I was like, oh man, Bruce, you better go to the cave. Take
He already
Alfred
knew.
with you.
And using the technology that we saw in Volume 1, that little contact lens,
the lens.
he can operate things from the cave, and he can talk to Alfred. And so they run down to the cave, and Talons are already in the Batcave, one of the most impenetrable fortresses in the world. They're in the Batcave, and they're not attacking Batman. They're attacking Bruce Wayne.
Mm-hmm.
And they kind of hint at knowing that Bruce Wayne is Batman. Bruce Wayne, the Court of Owls has sentenced you to die. You seem like you have a secret. And Batman is trying to tackle these people. And this is in his home. He's in his pajamas.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Robe, bandaged up.
How did you feel about Barefoot Batman out there?
Protect the house. Protect the house, Bruce. And Alfred. Give Alfred all of the guns. Because, you ain't about shooting no guns. And Alfred, I was concerned because Alfred is elderly.
No, what I liked about Alfred is that Alfred was concerned throughout this whole thing. He's like,
concerned for Bruce,
But Master Bruce, they're around you. But Master Bruce, they're fast. But Master Bruce, your suit, and all this other kind of stuff. Constantly showing concern for basically his son, right? But Bruce is taking on these Talons in his cave. There's a cool shot of him like on top of his roof, like just trying to like knock them down. Jumps down into the chimney, ends up in the Batcave.
Yeah,
and
when we ended up in the Batcave, I thought that was awesome. Right. He used almost everything in the Batcave, dude.
Yeah, because now we're
even the freaking penny.
We are in the legitimate playground of Batman, right? All his toys are here, and so when it looks like one of the Talons is close to getting Bruce Wayne, inflicting damage on Bruce Wayne, the coin starts to move, squish, and lands on him.
I always wondered if that thing could move.
Yeah, right.
That was the first time I ever seen a couple of things move in that cave was in the actual comic. So I kind of popped seeing a couple of things getting used, and I thought it was like, that's just in the cave just to be there.
What's really awesome is that it's things that you've seen multiple times.
Yeah, hell yeah.
They constantly go back to the penny. They constantly go back to the T-Rex, which we see later on. But
Fido.
These people still look like kids, and the Talons they were saying were just people from the circus.
Mm-hmm.
They were snatching up kids from the circus. Dick Grayson almost became a Talon.
Yep.
So Batman can see them. He has one of their like homing devices or something like that. He notices that they have technology and stuff. And he traps himself inside the Batcave. Well, him and Alfred are trapped inside the Batcave, and he's like, I need you to put this thing like negative 100 degrees because
freeze the cave, Alfred.
I need you to freeze the cave out because you
owls don't like the cold.
They don't. Owls don't like the cold, and neither do Talons. They'll just kind of go into like a stasis. So he's like, I need you to make it cold, and he's like, well, you won't, sir, but your body would not be able to withstand. He's like, just do it.
I'd have fired him. I said, Alfred, you're fired.
Actually, twice, bro.
Walk out.
yeah.
Walk out.
You go handle them. You want to put on one of my suits? You really think Batman don't have a suit for Alfred?
Maybe.
He has to have a suit for him, right?
Either that or either Alfred got sick of it and made his own damn suit.
It has to be like an Alfred protocol or something like that. Like, activates.
I hope the suit has a tie on it.
And it like spins around and it cuts people's heads off. I dig this. No, it's like you have like one of those serving trays and they come out and they use it as a shield.
I think we just spawned the Alfred comic.
The Pennyworth protocols. Write it down.
Wow.
Write it down. Write that down. So the Talons are banging on the door and doing the whole come out, wherever you are. Oh, hello, open up. You can't be in there for too long. And then we get a look at the Thrasher suit. Batman in a fully armored monstrosity of a suit.
That was cool. And the funny thing is, I knew he had that suit.
Yeah.
Didn't know it was gonna. I mean, you hinted at it, but I was like, nah, that's just not gonna be that. Seeing that suit was bad.
And he basically says, "Get the hell
out of my house!"
Out of my house. And that ends the first story in this volume, which was called "Attack on Wayne Manor." Then we get into Night of the Owls, which is short in here, but in the New 52. Mm-hmm. It's the first crossover of The
Bat
first
Family?
massive crossover, yeah, and it has to do with the Bat Family. So if you read Nightwing stories, it goes into Night of the Owls.
Because Alfred is about to put out the call
exactly
to the Bat
right,
Family
and
right
this
now.
one's called the Call, right? Exactly. So before he does that, Batman's sitting there in his suit.
So he puts out the call, and then I like. All right, so
Yeah,
I like this.
stories,
I like this. Yeah, I just want to put it. I want to put it together. So he calls the Bat Family. He puts out the call. Bruce tells him to put out the call because the hit for all the public figures out in Gotham are about to
he finds a chip
about
in
to
one,
get
in one of
handled
the
with and deceased and all that. They're about to get killed.
Yeah, he finds a chip in one of the Talon's gauntlets. It's like a USB.
So then he puts out the call, and then theoretically, those comics start.
Theoretically, you open up that issue of Nightwing, and he goes, "Just got the call from Batman. There's people targeted. I'm on my way to go
and it's
deal with them."
going around protecting the public figures.
In different.
That's awesome. I like how they do that.
I believe it's the Batgirl book that goes into the Mr. Freeze stuff that we'll eventually get later on about him dealing with them.
I think I was going to ask that too. Where does that for?
Yeah, because they say that he gave the Talons his
the
serum, whatever.
It's always a serum.
It's always a serum, bro. It's always a serum. But Batman is sitting there talking trash to the court. Alfred finds out Master Bruce. There's a list of targets, and nearly every public figure in Gotham is on it. One of the people on there is Victor Freeze. That's the whole issue. The Talons, the court has sent this Victor Freeze to die. How do you feel about this next couple of pages where you see, I guess, just public figures in Gotham, the city comptroller, the Gotham City deputy.
It's crazy because at first you see a couple of them bite the dust. You know what I mean? And the Bat Family can't be everywhere all at once.
Not only that, but the fact that Bruce just figured out what was going on. Like, just figured
it out. But while you just figured it out, dude, the Talons have already either on their way already or they're already there to where they need to be.
Yeah, and so they're stacking bodies in the street. Like, people are jogging, people are taking showers.
Dying in their showers. Oh my God.
They're just stabbing people up. How do you feel about the Talon design?
I think it's on point just as much as the original bat suit is on point. Very freaking owly. The face to me is one of my favorite things. The face and the actual talons that they wear.
Those like bone
eyebrows
and
the
the
owl
circle,
eyes. Straight up because the owls got really, really big eyes.
And they don't blink.
Yeah, and they hardly blink. So that's ill. That's super duper ill.
Alfred is stressed, bro. He's like, they're gonna kill them all. They're gonna kill them all. And he's like, he says, "Put out the call, Alfred." Alfred, he goes, "I'm here, sir. Put out the call to the family now." And he does. And in a beautiful splash page, you see Alfred kind of contact all the members of the Bat Family. So you got Tim Drake, you got Red Hood, you got Damian Wayne, you have Nightwing, Batgirl, and then you have Katana, and like members of the Outsiders and stuff. And he lets them all know, like, then and there. The only one who really knows, I think, is Dick, right? Because Dick had the conversation with Bruce prior. He just left.
And Bruce already had knocked out a tooth of his
he's
to show him, dude, you're about to be a Talon and you didn't even know him. So
right. So now
the
family's tipped off to these crazy assassins, and while this is going on, Bruce is like, "Come get it," you know what I'm saying? Like, come get the fight, and he takes on all the Talons himself in this big mech suit. But one of my favorite things about Scott Snyder's Batman, and I know there's people who are not 100% fans of his run, but these monologues, bro, these stories,
they're deep, dude.
They're deep, and they give you an insight that, like I said in the previous episode where we talk about Batman, that you don't get from the movies.
Reading the monologues gives me like a Peter Parker vibe.
Yeah,
and not to say that it's Peter Parker-ish, but I dig the character a little bit more, and I kind of get it being inside of his head
the
more.
voice is very important to those characters. Peter Parker as well, right? The voice is very important to those characters. But you get what's seemingly a regular story. It's just the way the panels and the things are set up. It just sounds beautiful. It goes, "The first member of my family to live in the manor were Solomon and Joshua Wayne, brothers. They bought the house in 1855, but they didn't move in until 2 years later. The reason was bats. A massive infestation of bats in the cave system beneath the land. They brought in a chirp chiroptologist from Gotham University. And according to him, to get rid of the bats, they'd have to introduce a predator into the cave. So the Wayne brothers did. They carted in all sorts of birds, from the peregrine falcons to kestrels, and unleashed them in different sections of the cave. The most efficient killer of bats, though, were the tiger owls. My ancestors let owls loose in the cave. And the next scene is owls in the cave fighting the bats.
Fighting all the talons.
And then he goes, and within a year, all the bats were gone. And it, like, so cool because it seemingly had nothing to do with
but when it jumps back in, you get the panel of him and him on the ground, and you get the bats coming all back into the cave, rushing the talons.
Yes, and so he's sitting there. He's telling Alfred, freeze him out, don't worry about it, freeze him out. He's also explaining to us, the reader, like, this suit, don't worry about me.
I'm gonna be good in here.
Yeah,
I got oxygen
in it. It's made out of like fibers of his own that are tougher than Kevlar. It has oxygen in it for weeks. It's made to withstand all like terrain on planet Earth. And he says, he goes, and I'm wearing it here in my home,
my house.
like you can't beat me on my turf with my gear, bro. And he's right. He basically takes out all these talons. Well, he gets a little bit of trouble. He gets into a little bit of trouble, and he's able to activate Fido, which is the dinosaur, the T-Rex.
All the kids fear the T-Rex.
And Fido stomps out some of the talons, but Alfred actually listens, is able to override the whole ice thingy. And we get some more. While it looks desperate for Bruce, he's on the floor, overtaken by. There's just too many talons, bro. It reminds me of when they all jump on Bruce Banner in the Hulk suit.
It's too many of them.
There's way too many. But then you hear some more narration. My ancestors used owls to kill bats. Owls everywhere. But I forgot. The thing I forgot is, as soon as the owls left, the bats came back. And all of a sudden, a swarm of bats come out, distract the court, and with the ice, it being as ice cold as Alfred was able to make it, Bruce just starts to beat the hell out of these talons, and one of them tries to run away.
He runs him over.
And he runs him over, and Alfred's like, sir, he's like, he has a healing factor.
I know.
He's like, don't worry about it, bro. He has a healing factor. I like how angry Batman is now.
Yeah.
Right?
We never really...
Because we, in this journey that we've taken in the Court of Owls, we have seen him desperate. We have seen him, curious. All kinds of different ways. We haven't seen him angry. But at the point of this story, they have come into his house. They have targeted Dick Grayson. They have caused multiple attempts on his life.
They're in his house in every sense of the word.
Exactly. And they're in his city. They're literally sitting in his city in the background.
And he feels betrayed by his city. So Batman's pissed. Bruce is pissed.
And he's ready to get control back. So he's like, I'm going to go look for Lincoln March. Because Lincoln March is on that list. And I'm going to try to make sure that he's okay. Plus, it doesn't matter because everybody else is out, getting all the other names. So he goes to Mr. March's office, and March is there with a gun, seemingly ready to shoot him, calling him Bruce Wayne. But it turns out he's not calling him Bruce Wayne. He's just calling out for Bruce Wayne. And he tells Batman, after Batman realizes that this man's been stabbed and he's going to die, he tells Batman, hey, bro, just tell Bruce Wayne I have a message. Remind him that a better Gotham is just one, it's just one dream away. And then he dies. And then Batman's like, I am going. He said they came to my house.
Yeah, they killed his friend, man.
Yeah, now Lincoln March is dead. And he goes, they came to my house, and now I'm going to burn theirs to the ground. And so that's the end of Assault on the Courts. I'm going to skip over the free stuff really quickly, because that is going to take its own time. I actually think I want to end with the free stuff because people had a lot of trouble trying to sit on that. But the next story in this volume is called My Brother's Keeper. Bruce Wayne is completely and totally frustrated with everything that's been going on with the Court of Owls. The Night of Owls has seemingly stopped. He sent the peeps to go around and make sure that, there was nothing going on with all those public figures. Obviously, they couldn't save them all because the Talons were on the money, and they got on a bunch of people. But now Batman's going to hunt the owls. He's made his choice to hunt the owls, and he's found out a lot. Since the stories began, he's found out that they were on the 13th floor. He's found out how the Talons work. He found out how cold works. He knows who they're targeting, and he seemingly has a bit of a lead, I guess you would call it. And so this is the assault on the court story. And so he finds one of the traces leads him to the house of a owl, and he shows up pissed. This woman almost kind of dressed like an owl. He basically tries to intimidate her, to interrogate her. There's the word.
He trashed her place first.
Yeah, he did. He tries to intimidate her, but she's not giving nothing up. She's not giving nothing up, and Batman can't get nothing out of her, so he leaves, and she basically says, you might as well quit because you can't stop the court. But they knew, they being Batman and Alfred, they knew if they showed up to a member of the Court of Owls house, that they would have no choice but to call the other court, and then they'll just trace the call. When trying to trace the call, turns out that it's in like a dead zone. But he's able to find a house. He's able to find a building, and believes it is the secret, meeting place of the Court of Owls. It goes in there. I love how he goes in there and just starts breaking owls. Like, he doesn't want to announce that he's there. He's not. But he's like, I'm not with it. Yeah, I am not with it, man. Screw
anything owl, he's just hitting.
Screw these owls. So he starts knocking owls over, and then he sees this big banquet table, and all the owls are sitting there, but they're all dead. So, how did you feel about that resolution?
I didn't know. I got there, and it's funny because I got to that panel, and then I pinched the rest of the book, and then I'm like, I got this much of the book left. How are they all dead?
Exactly.
What the hell is going on?
And that's something that keeps happening in this book, right? Where you think that you understand the threat and how big it is and how dangerous it's going to be, and then it goes away and something bigger comes.
I think what I like about it the most is that it all makes sense.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So because it makes sense, it just hits you a little bit harder and heavier. So that way when you do get to it, it's like, oh, like with the Table of the Owls. When I got there, I was just like, what the hell? I still got most of this to go. Like, what the fuck?
Matter of fact, I'm going to ask you when this is all said and done, what do you think is the most surprising panel or last page that you've seen? So sit on that while the rest of this podcast continues. He goes, damn you all, and then we see Bruce watching the sun rise, just fixated on what the heck is going on with the owls. They've killed Lincoln March, and he's just stressed. And Alfred tries to talk to him, and I like how you see a little bit more of their relationship here, right? Where he's like, don't worry, let me, I'll get you dressed if you need to get dressed. I'll do this, I'll do that. We did the autopsies. The court is dead. Like, maybe this is not something that needs to be found or needs to be continued to be searched for. And at one point he says something kind of cool, which is like, the reason why you feeling kind of weird is because now the court's dead. This is the end.
Yeah.
And you're not used to the end. Like, maybe that's what you're feeling. And Bruce is like, nah. None of this makes sense. What's going on? And they're having a conversation. He goes over and he sees a picture of his mom and his dad. And they're like, well, you know what? I'll put on the suit and I'll do whatever fundraiser. There's always like a Wayne fundraiser, right? Or some kind of meeting
like
he's supposed to have.
Fundraiser, like,
and a gala.
4 days out of the week, every week.
Exactly. Matter of fact, that's where the Harper Row stuff comes in. It's because she goes to a Wayne gala or something like that. But he's looking at the painting. And you can't tell why. And then he's like, Tell that guy that I had the meeting with that I'm not going to be able to make it. I'm going to go after him, Alfred. And Alfred's like, what are you talking about? Half the time, Alfred has no idea what Bruce is talking about. And then Bruce just drops the mic and walks out of the room.
Yeah, it runs out.
he's like, "Am I supposed to make dinner, sir? You haven't told me anything. What's going on? What time do you think
Perhaps
you'll
a
be
hot pocket.
Yeah. Isn't that? Doesn't he say something like that in one of those things? I'll get you a chimpanzee if I thought it would help. um, but he goes to the morgue, finds a paper that says "Follow me down the rabbit hole," and then that takes him to the Willowwood home for children. Basically, it is a home for children who need to be hospitalized because they have mental illnesses, neurological disorders, and stuff like that. So it's almost like a children's insane asylum. Can it get darker than a children's?
I don't know, but if it's a Batman comic, we'll find out eventually.
My God, I'm like, okay, and then there's like a. Did you see that like artwork where it's almost like the kids haunting it?
Yeah, like it's supposed to be them playing and stuff, doing things. Yeah, that was crazy. Yeah,
inside the thing.
Like how they did that.
And he goes into like almost a backstory about the children have been abused there. They didn't feed them, they didn't change them, all this kind of stuff. And turns out that all these clues led this man, all the clues he seems to have seen have led him to this Willowwood orphanage. And he says, "I'm here," because he expects the other person that he's looking for to be here, and he is. And Lincoln March comes out of nowhere. Dun dun dun. Did you know he wasn't dead? Did you have a little feeling?
I had a sneaky suspicion when he went to the morgue, but I gave him the benefit of the doubt because the owls are shifty characters, and I just seen Lincoln March die.
Yeah,
not too long ago.
And we also saw Talon attack Lincoln March.
Yep.
In the first volume, so it's almost like what's going on here? And the entire time in this interaction, he's caught Batman in a net, but the whole time he's like instigating to Batman. You know who I am. You figured this. The only reason why you're here is because you know who I am. You figured it out. Tell me who I am. Tell me who I am. I'm not Lincoln March. Tell me who I am. And so Batman's like, well, you're a traitor. You're a thief. You remember the Court of Owls, but you betrayed them. You faked your own death and all this other kind of stuff. And he's like, no. That you kind of got it like half right. He's like, I worked for the Owls. The Owls came to me and all this other kind of stuff. And I do work for them. And, I do have in me the serum that makes you stronger, that makes you faster, that makes you a little bit harder to kill. But that's not why you came here. How did you come here? Why did you come here? What's your theory? He's like, I think you used to be here. And he's like, well, that's good. That's good. Keep telling me. He's basically like, just, tell me how you figured that out. And he's like, well, criminals leave clues behind. And he had told Batman this story about how his mother had died in a car crash and that she left behind this heart-shaped pin. And Bruce figures out that he looked at the painting of his mother and his father, and his mother has a heart-shaped pin. And that he had heard some stories that his mother was pregnant with a child, and that child died because of a car crash. And so the brother never got to live. But Lincoln says, oh, no, I didn't die. I was brain damaged. And I was brain damaged so severely that Mom and Pop basically brought me to Willowwood and hid me there. And they never wanted to come get me. I guess I was always the, And he's like, but he's still like, connect the dots. Bruce, connect the dots.
That's crazy. And it's funny because I see it more now when he's in the mansion with Alfred looking at the painting.
And he's talking about his family and all that kind of stuff. And he goes, he's literally pulling the story out of him. Mm-hmm. He's pulling the story out of Batman because Batman has deduced all of it. And he says, who am I? Who am I? Who am I? And basically, Batman though is not biting. He goes like, you're sick. You're nothing.
I do like the play on the wordplay on the owls when he's asking Bruce who.
I didn't even put that together. And yes, that's exactly.
That's pretty damn good.
I didn't. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Again, every time he says "who," it's in bold. Mm-hmm. And as he's interrogating / just throwing salt in the wound into Batman and asking him, "Who am I? Who am I?" He's putting on the Talon outfit. He's like armoring up and having a conversation with him. And it turns out he goes, "I'm your brother. I'm your brother, Thomas Wayne Jr." And he was like, he's like, "I don't have a brother." And he's like, "Well, that's exactly, like this is exactly what happened. Remember, your mother was pregnant. She got into a car crash. the child was brain damaged. They thought he was unfixable, so they left me here. And after the Waynes died, I kind of just rotted here until the court found me, fixed me, created me as Lincoln March so they could have somebody at the forefront of their shadowy operation. Because Lincoln March, I think, was running for mayor.
Yeah.
And so they wanted somebody up front for all that kind of stuff. But eventually, they did send a talent for him, too. And so he was like, okay, screw that. I'm going to go after the court. I guess he felt betrayed and stuff. But this entire time that Batman is, like I said, he was been like teasing Batman, he has been armoring up because he's ready to fight.
Yeah.
He wants to fight with Batman. This is something he wants to do. He's arming himself up. He's like, let's do it. Let's go at it. Brother to brother, Wayne to Wayne, Bat against Owl. And they start fighting. Do you believe Lincoln March?
It's hard because what I said earlier about things making sense, it's like kind of can't ignore the facts. But more than anything, when I first read this by myself, besides looking at the facts, I was looking at Lincoln March. Kind of looks like Bruce Wayne a little bit, just a little bit. And it's funny because without even going into the story, deeper into the story, in the first volume when they meet in old Wayne Tower, I kind of got that little vibe. So I was like, what the hell?
Like a relative vibe?
Well, not really relative vibe, just more like kind of look alike. But I thought nothing of it at the time. I was just like, whatever.
Two strong jawed individuals, businessmen, doing what they got to do. No, I get that. I get that completely. I didn't want to believe it because that's kind of a comic book thing too, right? Like, and your evil brother, and it's always like, and the person you thought was dead is not really dead, and
but
he's
it's
in
cool
the
the way they did it because you didn't freaking even see it coming, even with the
knife?
The knife in Lincoln March's chest.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? After that, that's it.
He's like, oh,
March,
he's dead.
So
he's
you
gone.
take that out, and he's like, okay, what's next with Batman? Who's he else?
Yeah, I hope he just finds the talents. I hope he finds the talents. And now you have this rogue talent in Thomas Wayne Jr., a.k.a. Lincoln March.
Now the only talent.
Oh, yeah, because he went through and
kind of killed everybody.
Yeah, he went through, and did all that. Some news to drop, or I guess not news, but a little bit of insight to drop here on the Major Issues podcast. So, I did a little research. Turns out this is not the first appearance of Thomas Wayne Jr. Yes, it turns out that a very, very long time ago, I want to say in the 60s or 70s.
I'm going to hold my seat.
Yeah, they created a character called Thomas Wayne Jr. You want to know Thomas Wayne Jr.'s origin? Thomas Wayne Jr.'s origin is that he was the older brother, or supposed to be the older brother of Bruce Wayne, whose brain was damaged from a car crash.
Wow. Hold up. So you think they just brought that back out?
That's all he did, B.
Wow. Snyder, you the man. I mean, given. In the comic, in this, they show you clearly that Bruce is still older, though.
Yeah.
But screw that.
Yeah.
That.
Yeah.
It's a little bit for Snyder just now, That's cool. That's
cool.
I'm a fan of stuff like that.
I had to do a double check because
awesome.
I'm like, okay, so his brain is damaged from the car crash. So the Waynes hide him in Willowwood Orphanage, the same exact orphanage that's written in this book. And they were supposedly gonna tell Bruce, but then they got killed.
They were gonna tell him after they walked through.
Yeah. Now, in this makes more sense that they were waiting till Bruce got to a certain age or something, because this would have been the older son.
But I'm gonna hand clap it up just for continuity alone.
and that's
just for digging that up and bringing that back to the forefront for us to give us the story is freaking amazing. That's
what makes comics. That's what turns comics from everything else. The same way we watch something, people watch something like a Infinity War, and there's a joke from Avengers 1 or Iron Man 1, and you go, "Oh, they called it back." No, we're going decades. Yeah. You understand?
That's crazy. That's awesome.
There was a history here.
That's my first thing like that for comic books. So that's gonna stick with me for a minute.
For a while, you remember how they brought back Thomas Wayne Jr. In the original incarnation, he had became the Boomerang Killer. I don't remember if he's killing people with boomerangs or it's just the idea that it's something that they sent away and it came back. Okay. And then Bruce had figured out that it was his brother, and then he takes a bullet for Bruce and dies. So they just did their own version here. They made him a Talon. and it's still it's a question. If you look at any like the Wikipedias and stuff like that,
Right.
if you look at Lincoln March and like his family and stuff like that, it says like probably.
Oh wow.
It says like Thomas Wayne probably his mother, Martha Wayne probably his father, so, the other way around. So I thought that was pretty cool. But we get like the third act of this, which is basically one-on-one, brother against brother, Lincoln March against.
You're a lunatic in a bat suit. I mean, in an owl suit, in a bird suit. It doesn't matter. We're both in bird suits and we're crazy.
Yeah, and they're all just they are talking trash to each other.
Hell yeah.
And Lincoln's all souped up.
Yeah, he's on. But Lincoln is taking it to Bruce.
And he's on whatever, the Electrum or whatever serums that they were giving everybody. So he's all like jacked up on Mountain Dew. And he's beating them up. And he's telling like the story of Cain and Abel. He's like, this is what happens. Cain and Abel, Romulus and Remus, which is the story of how Russia was formed, I believe. He's like, the sons of Gotham were meant to share this city, but then it was you. Gotta get greedy. Had to have your whole family. Yada, yada, yada. I like how he knocks Bruce off a building, and Bruce goes like, all right, Lincoln, you want to be my fallen brother so bad? Start falling. And he drags him down. He takes like what do they call that? The grappling hook, and drags him down. But homeboy has a jetpack, because of course, right?
Afloat in the air.
Of course, the owls have a jetpack.
He's an owl.
And he drags Bruce Wayne by his grappling hook around the city, smashes him into a building, talking the most trash. He's like, don't you see? Like, this is the mirror that you were looking at, that where actual atrocities are happening and you have no idea, and they're happening right behind your back. And he kind of gives his own origin, right? He says, pretend to live like I did, fool yourself. You're a child, you're growing, but you're broken. Something's wrong with you. You can't move, you can't talk. You can see, everyone thinks you're in sleep, and they're waiting for you to die, but you're alive. You're alive in there. And you don't even know who you are, but you're someone, you feel it. And the Talons made him somebody, If the Talons and Lincoln would have gotten what they wanted, Lincoln would have been mayor. He would have been right there with Bruce. He would have had as much of a hand in Gotham as he wanted to. And you can see how desperate he is to have that same importance that Bruce Wayne / Batman has. And it's crazy. And he's just out of control, and he's just going through the story. And I think the saddest part is when he's like, you wait every day until like the brother that you have comes back, and he never does. Which, if it's true, is sad. And if it's not true, it's just crazy, right?
Yeah.
The fact that you think that this family that you don't have is going to come and pick you up and save the day. It doesn't happen. He smashes him through a church bell.
Mm-hmm. Slams him into the bell.
And then they start talking, and they go back into the air, and they buy a plane, and all of a sudden I start thinking of The Incredibles, right? Because they're like, no capes. You can't have a cape near the plane engine, because you're just going to get sucked into there and die. And he basically puts Batman on the plane engine, like he's about to send Batman into the plane engine to die, be the last brother to live. He's like, you can let go. Your brother is watching over you as he always has. And talking more smack. And Batman's like, well, you should have taken your own advice and watch your back. And put like a bomb on his back. Ejects the bomb. The force of the bomb sends the Talon into the engine.
Mm-hmm.
And my God.
Shreds. Regenerate from that.
Yeah, all right. Yes. So, and then Batman just falls. Falls from, 1,000 feet in the air. And as he's falling, he's like, look at the city.
Yeah. Batman's Batman.
He's monologuing as he's falling to his death. He's like, look at the city. She reminds me, she saves me, she loves me. And he's able to come into the old Wayne Tower, right? He crashes through to the old Wayne Tower. No cape. And he's like, oh, I finally landed. And then Lincoln March picks him up. And Lincoln March is like, well.
I thought that was it. I was like, oh, man. But when I seen Lincoln March grab his chest to pull him back up, I was
like, here we go again. And Lincoln March is like, no, you know what? Screw this. I don't even want to just kill you. I'll kill me too. I'm about to send this whole Wayne Tower crashing down. And it will crash down poetically on us, the Waynes. And that's just what's going to be. That's what is we're destined to be. We're destined to be forgotten, destined to be just left here in the rubble. I'm Gotham's history. And then Bruce pokes his eyes out, just shoves his thumbs deep into the eye sockets of Lincoln March and runs away from explosions. We've seen this Batman get out of some damn explosions, and here he does again. I think like out of like a compartment chute, he goes and he's able to jump out of the building at the very last minute, and the entire Wayne Tower falls, killing seemingly I guess killing Lincoln March, and ending this battle with the Talons. And just like the first volume, this volume kind of sort of, there's another story, but this volume kind of sort of ends with Bruce sitting, nursing his wounds again, looking at Gotham and explaining, how he feels about everything. And it turns out that the Court of Owls is extremely good at cleaning up their messes. There's no trace of them. There was no casualties in the fall of the Wayne Tower. All the traces of money, buildings, all that stuff is gone. But Bruce Wayne is still 100% set on finding them. He still believes that they're here in this city and he was going to find them all. And Dick, I think it's hilarious because Dick is like, he goes, "I'm glad to see you, Dick." And Dick goes, "Well, you shouldn't be. I've been planning on getting you back for that punch as soon as you were well." And he
Dick
cracks,
ain't forget, yeah.
and he cracks his knuckles. He's like, don't worry about that. And they talk. And he goes, "Do you really believe that this Lincoln March guy is your brother?" And he's like, "Well, there's a possibility that he might be, my mother she was pregnant and she did get into a car crash and she did give birth to a child who did have mental instabilities and his records were removed from the hospital. There's a lot of ifs and it could point to there, but we don't know." And he talks about falsified records. He talks about, all the things that could have been changed, the fact that it could be Lincoln, it couldn't be Lincoln, and the fact that at the end of the day, he just doesn't know. And Dick is like, "Are you okay with that?" And he's like, "I'm not, but in this city, I guess I have to be." And he's like, and he goes, "Well, that's very big of you." He goes, "Until I find evidence." We're back to it being Bruce Wayne. And then they have a nice little moment because he says, "Dick, I know it must have been hard finding out that you were meant to be a Talon, to be one of the Owls. I know it might seem like I saved you from that destiny, but you could have never been one of them. Never. They might have seen something in you back then, but so did I. And the truth is, I didn't save you from some dark fate those years ago. You saved me from one, and you're still saving me every day."
Bruce Wayne.
How'd you feel about that interaction and him?
I mean, Bruce kind of
like
never really does open up to anybody in the Bat family like that.
Right.
From the beginning.
Is it fair to say without these comics, you would have never seen him open up to a member of the Bat family?
Yes.
Okay.
I think it is. Because you don't even get that in the movies.
No. He barely has a family.
Yeah, he barely has a family in the movies.
Yeah.
So seeing that is a cool dynamic. I feel like you get the whole package of Batman.
Yeah, because in the first volume, it was Dick saying, like, "Thank you, wow, you saved me. I could have been a Talon." And in this one, he's like, "Nah, bro, you saved me." And that there's that beautiful moment, beautiful writing, that beautiful moment, that beautiful, nice, heartwarming moment. And then just almost like in Marvel movies, right? The next thing that comes out is, "Damn it, Bruce, now I can't hit you. I just have to do it some other time. It's fine, though. I'll just sneak up and surprise you." And then Bruce goes, "You'll try." And we're back. And it's like, we're back. And he goes, "Now what? What are you going to do with everything, with what you know about Gotham, with now the Wayne Tower's gone?" He's like, "Oh, don't worry about the Wayne Tower. I'm going to build it bigger and better." He's like, "I used to think of the city as mine, but it's not. I was wrong. The city isn't Batman. It doesn't belong to the Owls. Gotham is all of us." And Dick's like, "It's a little bit Batman. It's a little bit Batman, bro. You can say it's a little bit Batman, but you have this thing where the last lines are, in the end, I have to say, I'm grateful to the Court of Owls for the lesson, but even so, if they reemerge, when they reemerge, I'll be watching always." And so it gives me this question: has Batman won? Do you think that Batman has won this battle against Gotham, against the Owls? Just from what you've read, or would you like him to win? Do you think he's? Because I personally think he's gained a level of confidence that he didn't have when he first fought them.
I mean, he essentially beat the Illuminati, right?
Kind of, sort of, yeah.
Right. So screw it, take the W, Batman.
Take the W. I'm with it.
Lincoln March is dead.
Right.
Everybody in the Court of Owls is presumably dead.
Right.
Everybody at the table was dead. So I'm gonna stick with everybody's
like
dead.
I'll be the only thing people fear from now on.
I'm gonna take the W.
He's like, Dick, I'm gonna give you this nursery rhyme. Go ahead and tell these little kids the Court of Bats.
And he's got. And did we find out what we? No, I would like to know what he did with the talons that were.
Oh,
in the
we
cave.
did find out they're in a stasis. In
the
but
Wayne but after,
he's
keep
like,
him like
chilling.
around like
he's just
the
chilling.
hell.
He dresses them up later.
Because think about it, if it gets it could get warm in the cave and they're waking up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So,
yeah, that's true. I think he has them in a Wayne Corp building in the cryo sector or whatever, and we'll get to cryos in a bit. But the next story is called The Fall of the House of Wayne, and we'll get through this one pretty quickly because all it is a flashback to Alfred's father, Jarvis Pennyworth. Because the story that Lincoln March told is a story of the Waynes being pregnant with a child and getting into a car crash. Turns out that car crash was orchestrated by the Court of Owls, who were trying to kill Martha Wayne for opening up a new school building that she wasn't supposed to.
Basically not backing down at all.
Yeah, she was supposed to. They called them, try to scare them, all that kind of stuff. They
Waynes even told Alfred to drive her at such and such place, and Alfred didn't drive them, so it was like
I think this is the best.
They called Alfred. It's like Alfred Pennyworth. I mean Jarvis Pennyworth.
I think this is one of the also cool bits of symmetry where you have the history of the court versus the history of the Waynes, where the Waynes have always, have you seen in this issue, been up front. We're here to save the city. We're here to do better. And the court has always been in the back, going, not if we don't want to. And this is a status quo that was established before Batman joined. So it's nothing personal, bro. Like nothing personal to your Bat thing. But we've been doing this a long,
the Owls in Gotham have been here way before Batman.
Yeah, so Alfred tries his best to not be afraid. Not Alfred, sorry, Jarvis, his father, tries his best to not be afraid of the Court of Owls and their threats to the Wayne family, and even goes so far as to disregard the instructions they give him. They're like, listen, this is what you're going to do. You're going to drive down this road at this time, and just that's what's going to happen. And instead, he drives down another road, but they still managed to attack the car.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Get into a car crash, and when he looks up, there's a Talon there because they're always going to be there. And I think the coolest part of the story is that Jarvis basically warns Alfred, like, don't come to Gotham. There's nothing good in Gotham. And he sounds crazy, the same way that Alan Wayne sounded crazy. These older people sound crazy, like, what do you mean Court of Owls? There's no such thing as the Court of Owls. And, all the scare tactics showing up, throwing the bombs. They even put Jarvis in his own car wreck. First they get Jarvis in a car wreck to scare him. Then they do the complete car wreck with Martha, which would lead to the origin of Thomas, because the car wreck is what gave him the brain damage and the reason why that he is supposedly left at the Widow Ward orphanage. But he tells him, like, you need to not ever come to Gotham, ever, 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 ever. But
Jarvis Pennyworth,
right? But Alfred and Bruce do what they do every morning. They go to the graves of the Waynes and are having a full-on conversation. But the idea is that they're not going to question what's happened. Too much of the lore, has been around, and they just, the court was a tale, a myth, right? That they had no facts on, but were real. Now Batman's starting to not trust facts because those things led him to where he was at, and now we're at that level
But
where
he's
he's
a
like,
detective. He relies on facts.
which is that whole issue of the detective versus the assassin. The assassin's job is to leave as little facts, as little clues, as little trace as possible. But Bruce Wayne seems to have solved this mystery. Well, for now. Dun, dun, dun. We're getting into the second to last story, really, really quick. Ghost in the Machine, which shows is a little bit of a backstory to Harper Row, who becomes Bluebird. Bluebird is the newest member of the Bat family in the New 52. She comes out in Batman number 28, and basically this story follows an emancipated teenager named Harper Row and her brother Cullen. Turns out mom's dead. Dad is a deadbeat alcoholic, so they live on their own. Cullen is gay. I say that because it has to do with the story. It's not like a big deal, but it starts off with Cullen getting Harper ready to go to a Bruce gala. She thinks the only reason she's been invited is because she lives in the Narrows. They live in the worst neighborhood in Gotham, and she's like, "Oh, Bruce is just inviting me because I'm the poor girl, that he's gonna help
as a prop."
Yeah, that he's gonna help. And so she goes anyway and tries to steal a bunch of desserts and stuff. And Alfred was pretty cool with her. I thought that was pretty cool. Like, Alfred was pretty much like, "Oh, you have to try the brownies." And then she tried to like diss him, and he's like, "Oh no, I like to cook sometimes." She has a little bit of fun at the gala, but chooses to go home. When she goes home, she finds that her brother has been beaten up to a pulp. They have cut his hair, massacred his hair, and they have wrote a homophobic slur in the back of his head. Very sad. It's a very sad series of panels as you see him crying, and he's like, they just beat me up, and they weren't gonna kill me. He says, he said they were gonna kill me, but they just wanted to hear me scream. They just beat on me. And so she goes, "Give me the clippers." And he's like, "If you cut my hair nice, they'll just mess it up again." So she goes,
hers, yeah.
that wasn't what I was gonna do. And she cuts her hair too, and even cuts the homophobic slur into the back of the head. And they go to school like that. This haircut though, this like little blue with the purple, ends up being her look for the future, like from here on out. Obviously not with the slur in the back of the head.
Right.
But yeah, she does that. You find out that she gives a story about her family and her background in the technology. She knows that there's an electrical grid underneath Gotham City and that it's hundreds of years old. And so she likes to mess around with all that kind of stuff. One time in the alley with her brother, the homophobes show back up and they go to beat him senseless. And Harper has a little taser, is able to defend her brother for a little bit of time. But before that happens, they pull out a knife. And it starts getting kind of dark because you're like, these kids are surrounded by homophobes and there's a knife involved. And what's going to happen? And all of a sudden, out of a puff of smoke, Batman shows up, defends the kids, gives her like a dirty look, and then disappears. So now you got two Bat fanatics, right? Harper Row and her brother Cullen Row are now Batman fanatics. They've just been saved by Batman, and she is now obsessed. So she starts looking at security camera footage of Batman to see if she can figure out just where he disappeared to. But there's seconds missing on the camera footage. So she's like, "Oh, well, the only way he can get access to the camera footage is if he has access to the electrical grid." So she goes down to the sewers to try to check on the electrical grid. And she sees that Batman has bat boxes attached to the electrical grid so he can tap in at any time, and notices that one of them one day goes off. So she goes downstairs to fix it, or goes down into the sewers to fix it, and Batman's beating up a gang member called Tiger Shark on a boat, and is basically like, "Where's the talons?" He's looking for more talons just in case of anything, and gets attacked by a full-grown tiger, because that's what happens. Batman versus a tiger. And unbeknownst to Batman, Harper Row is down there, so she helps him out. Yeah, she helps him out. She's able to let go some water that is able to incapacitate or change the flow of where the boat goes, and boom. Batman's able to tell that somebody helped him though, and he's not.
He ain't stupid.
He ain't cool about it. Harper Row is ecstatic, happy.
No help, 'cause I'm Batman.
Harper Row is happy as heck, loving it. I helped Batman. That was me. I did it. Matter of fact, I'm about to go back down there and do it again. And Batman shows up, and Batman's like, she's like, I'm just gonna help you. And he goes, whatever you think you're doing, you're finished.
Nah.
This isn't up for debate. You're finished. You're finished.
Nah.
And basically, the comic ends with Harper Row going, nah, B. And the Batman Eternal, which is another book in the New 52 line, deals more with Harper Row, Nightwing, like the family all together. So if you ever get an itch for Harper Row, she is in there. But now it's time to talk about probably the most problematic bit of storytelling in this so far. Something that, I'm new to Reddit. And I actually went to Reddit for some opinions on this. And I went to Facebook for some opinions on this because I didn't read this when it came out. So I was very curious as to how people felt about the New 52 retcon of Mr. Freeze's origin story. Now, I have a little bit of a, background, like a timeline kind of deal with this. So, if you would allow me to, I have a very interesting story to tell as far as Mr. Freeze is concerned. Okay. So, Batman was created in 1939, right? 1940, the very next year, Robin comes out. So by 1940, you got Batman and Robin, right? In 1959, this psychiatrist comes out with a book. This guy's called Frederick Wetham writes a book. It's called Seduction of the Innocent. It says that comics are linked to violence, homosexuality, drug use, and other reckless behavior.
Well, it's ill storytelling, so you should relax, guy. I mean, that was back in the day.
And it was also back in the day.
Yeah.
So he also pointed out Batman and Robin specifically by saying that Batman and Robin is literally just like a allegory for a gay relationship.
Okay. That's not the first time I actually heard that.
Right.
I've seen people poke fun at that
kind of early.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, I'm starting to get it a little bit more.
So close to 20 years after they become a team, they're questioned now, right? This book, everyone buys into it. Everyone. He spoke to the courts and stuff. This was a big deal. This actually creates the Comics Code Authority, which is basically the rating system almost to make sure that there's no OD or gore or drug use or any of that kind of stuff. So 5 years after that book comes out, Mr. Zero debuts. Mr. Zero was just a guy with a freeze gun. Ooh. And he was extremely, extremely corny.
Wow.
He was made the same year as Kite Man and Calendar Man and Zebra Man.
Oh, man.
And Rainbow Beast.
Oh, this must have been a bad year.
But it was just... It was not necessarily a bad year, but they have a conscious effort of making everything more campy and more jokey because the book came out saying that everything was too dark and too thing.
So they're trying to lighten.
You can't kill drug dealers or arrest drug dealers if you can't reference drugs in your book. So now you have to have people who steal kites and people who have freeze guns, right? So Mr. Zero debuts in 1959. I am Mr. Zero, right? The Batman television show that comes out changes the name to Mr. Freeze. So the comics changed the name to Mr. Freeze in 1968. So now we got Mr. Freeze. Same thing though, cold gun. That's it, right? Guy got a cold gun, and he uses it to solve crimes. Mr. Freeze doesn't get a origin until 1992.
Wow.
Is that surprising?
That is.
At least I'm here for knowledge today.
That is surprising. I'm glad I existed at the time.
Exactly.
That's kind of cool. I didn't know that.
He gets his origin in 1992.
Damn, that's still kind of fresh.
And do you know what the big deal about it is? Not in the comic book. Mr. Freeze's origin story comes from Batman the Animated Series.
Hold the phone?
One of the writers on Batman the Animated Series, the creator of Harley Quinn, Paul Dini,
that is ill,
wrote Heart of Ice.
That is fire because I've seen that.
It's a very touching
episode. Not knowing that was that is bananas because I always thought he was Damn, man.
Yeah. Major issues, baby. That's what we're here for. So, Heart of Ice comes
I
out,
got my
right?
mind blown like 2 or 3 times on this episode. I'm sorry, y'all.
It's 1992, right? Heart of Ice comes out. Batman the Anime Series is just tearing up everything.
Yeah. Because if you play it now, it'll still tear up.
Yeah, it's tearing up everything. And like I said, he created Harley Quinn. Does that whole backstory, the whole relationship. He wrote Harley Quinn's origin story. The New 52 kind of did what they wanted to do with it, with the whole falling in the acid stuff. But what we saw in the animated series was her origin, which was she was a psychiatrist, all that kind of stuff. So Heart of Ice comes out in 1992, and the story is that Mr. Freeze is a beautiful, a brilliant scientist, and he meets a beautiful woman in college named Nora. They get married, and she succumbs to a very, very dangerous disease. In the movie, it's McGregor syndrome, which is funny because Iris's mom gets McGregor syndrome in The Flash. So it's McGregor syndrome, and so he freezes her in the hopes that thaw her out when he finds a cure for her disease. Somebody comes down, one of the big bosses comes down to be like, I'm cutting the funding to all of this. And in the scuffle, because he's like, no, don't, that's my wife, some canisters get busted open, he gets exposed to them, and then he can no longer survive at normal temperatures. He needs to keep his body cold at all times or else he'll die. And he still has the whole thing of, his journey is always, I need to find the technology or the cure for my wife and then unfreeze her. Every crime that he has committed from 1992 forward has been with that motivation. He doesn't just rob banks. If he's robbing banks, it's to get diamonds. It's to get diamonds for his machine,
for his money,
to keep his suit alive,
so
to keep him alive,
he can keep going,
so that he can
bring back my Nora.
Exactly. Now here comes some other cool numbers for you. So, 1992, that episode comes out, right? Blows the everyone away, blows Batman's fans away, and it gives us now a depth to Mr. Freeze. But it's animated.
Right.
So 1997, they're like, hey, hey, Paul Dini, we really, really dig that. You think you could write that for us? So Paul Dini writes the comic book, Mr. Freeze, and writes in now a comic book origin. The same comic book origin from Heart of Ice is now the comic book origin going forward. Now everything's connected. We're all good. Harley Quinn's in the comics from the animated series. Now this origin is from the animated series. So he writes that origin in 1997. Something was in the water in 1997 though, because in 1997 we also get Batman and Robin. Who's the villain in that? Mr. Freeze.
Mr. Arnold.
With the origin written by Paul Dini.
Wow.
So
it's amazing how you get older and all this crap hits you and it's just like,
they were
I'm slowing down right here. I'm soaking everything in. Like, holy crap.
So they were in the bag
for
Freeze.
Right. They were in the bag for Freeze.
They were in the bag for Freeze. Batman Sub-Zero, the animated movie from Mr. Freeze, comes out the very next year, 1998. So boom, an origin story comes out for Mr. Freeze in 1992, and no one checks it. Like, no one, challenges it. There's no beef, no problems. Nora's his wife. He's a sympathetic villain because he's only doing the things he's doing
for his wife,
stay alive for himself and to bring his wife back. That's it. Then Scott Snyder showed up. And he writes in Batman Annual, number 1, in 2012. So literally, what's that? 20 years. 20 years to the year that Paul Dini wrote the first origin story for Mr. Freeze. Scott Snyder writes his version. And instead of going through the story in here, I just want to talk about the origin.
Okay, yeah.
So, real quick in the story, it's just Mr. Freeze is trying to get revenge on the Court of Owls because they used his serum
to bring back the talons, and stuff like that.
So Batman,
he doesn't have it.
Yeah. So Batman and the Robins are going after Mr. Freeze. He's able to almost take out the Robins, and then Batman shows up with a heated
knuckle,
brass knucks, and takes it to Freeze. Meanwhile, while that's going forward in time, we're actually also going backwards in time and getting an origin.
The origin, yeah.
Turns out in the new origin, Mr. Freeze is still the crazy kid that likes to freeze animals' body parts to see what works and what doesn't. But his mother, one day, when they're going to go make a snowman, falls through the ice. His mother falls through the ice. And she survives the fall because the ice was so cold it preserved her body. But from then going forward, she was in a constant state of pain. So, as a mercy killing, young Victor Freeze brings his mother out in a wheelchair to the same place normally that she fell through the ice, and then pushes her through the ice, kinda, and just allows her to die. He's just mesmerized by the idea that somebody's body could be frozen and then unfrozen and be back to life and stuff. So we jump a little bit to the middle because we find out that he has his Nora, she's frozen, and he's working for Bruce Wayne, and Bruce Wayne's all about this whole, this technology and stuff like that. But he thinks that Victor's getting a little bit too crazy with it, spending too much time with it, and in an argument with Victor throws a chair. Chair hits a canister. Same thing. Canister hits Victor Freeze, and then his body can't work without the suit and all that. So that stays the same. But we find out through dialogue with Batman when they're fighting, Batman's like, bro, that's not even your wife.
Right.
Why are you going so crazy over this woman? He's like, don't talk about my Nora like that. I love her. And he's like, no, listen. The Nora you're talking about, she was a young girl that was born in like the 30s.
Yeah, I found that crazy. I was like, what the hell is going on here?
Yeah, she was like, that woman is old enough to be your grandmother. She got sick with a disease and they froze her in an experimental way, like early in the days when we didn't know what the heck anything was.
Supposedly she was the first one to be cryogenically
and because she was the first one, she was the one that Victor wrote his entire, his paper about in college. And so he became obsessed with her and obsessed with bringing her back to life, and has almost now
because of his own experience with ice,
and his mother
and his mom.
He knows it can be done, and he wants to find the cure and bring this woman back. But he has now recontextualized that story to be that no, this is almost his soulmate because of his love for ice and his love for what it does to life. This woman is his Nora, is his woman, is his wife. But now we know, because of this book, it's not. So how do you feel about that?
I thought it was interesting. I'm not gonna say it was good. I'm not gonna say it was bad. Coming up, I was Mr. Freeze was super duper over on me.
Yeah.
I didn't know when I was watching that he was still very, very fresh and new. I found that out today on the podcast, So and then going into Batman Forever with Arnold, he's still basically fresh, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And to still find that out is bananas. The Nora story is a big thing because it's a thing that gives him a whole his sympathy and also it's basically his whole battery, his whole motivation. If you take that out, then all right. So you take that out and he finds that out. Then what?
Yeah, right. What is his motivations going forward? So I'm of two sides of it. I didn't mind it. To tell you the truth, I didn't really think about it. I did the most research on it today for this podcast. And if you trace the breadcrumbs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Freeze doesn't really have a story, like a Killing Joke, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or Tower of Babel, or any of those stories that define a specific villain. Two-Face has stories. You've seen that All-Star Batman.
Mm-hmm.
There really is no Mr. Freeze story, and that's because the only thing people have been obsessed about since they made it was his origin.
Mm-hmm.
Since 1992, only people been able to tell, only story is the Nora story. So because that's the only story being told,
I feel like they boxed themselves in with that.
They did. I think because that's the only story to tell, you're always just gonna have Mr. Freeze that's not bad, but he's also doing bad things.
Bad things.
So how long do you let this bad man do not bad things because you feel bad for him? You have to kind of make him into a villain eventually, right? And just, oh no, I have to stop him. He's just
got to go off the cuff,
I guess.
That's
my devil's advocate.
But if he's gonna go off the cuff, it's got to be for now, for this 50, for the new 52, for the new 52. If that's the case,
right?
If I'm him and I'm thinking Batman's telling me that's not Nora this whole time,
yeah,
I'm freezing all of Gotham City, bro.
But that's the thing. When I first read this, that's what I thought was going to happen. I thought he was going to flip out. But the thing is, it's implied here that he knows that.
I think Batman did say something like that.
Like, what are you talking about?
Oh,
but
your research and your paperwork, yeah.
No one else has questioned this. This is a story he's telling people, and I wonder if it's almost a play on the idea that Paul Dini just wrote the thing. It's like you're telling everyone this origin. No one's questioning it. I did a little bit more digging, and I found that it's not true. So almost like Scott Snyder saying, like, bro, one guy wrote an origin years ago. No one's touched it. No one's questioned it. No one's expanded upon it. And so I did. Now what? And so I'm of two minds about it. I did some more research, and I found out that there's a woman called Lazura. Turns out Mr. Freeze, in the continuity where it's still his wife, brings Nora to the Lazarus Pit. Because of the things with the ice and the Lazarus Pit, she becomes a super villain who can control fire called Lazura. So if this origin keeps us from Lazura, I think I might be okay with it. Sure. I think I might just be okay.
Oh, Lazarus sounds interesting. The opposite of Freeze.
I do feel like Batman has a little bit too much in the way of sympathetic villains, and Paul Dini, he wrote a lot of like Poison Ivy episodes where she was kind of not the villain, where she was kind of misunderstood, and then Harley Quinn's entire character is that she's misunderstood, and then you have things like you get to certain stories where people are like, wow. I really feel bad for the Joker. And it's like,
but the Joker, like, can you really,
So if Mr. Freeze is just a down-out crazy villain, did we really just lose one? Did we kill we might have killed the greatest origin story.
Because if anything, I'll just go someplace else and go feel sorry for Clayface or something like that. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, what they do too, they do that too.
Yeah, that's why
they put Clayface on the squad. So it happens with his villains. So I wonder if that was just Scott Snyder's attempt to just turn one to the side that like he's already on, like he's already a villain. Let's just go with this.
Interesting though. I still think it's interesting.
That's all basically brand new, and no one's really playing around with it. Mr. Freeze is, and no one's still playing around with it. We got some cool new designs in this comic and in the Origin games or the Arkham games. I'm sorry. How'd you feel about his look in the comic? How'd you feel about his gun?
I like his look in the comic because his look in the comic. I swear, if it had been a fishbowl on his head, I'd be pissed.
Did you see at one point he drinks the ice cold water?
Oh yeah, I was gonna on people. I was like, oh, go ahead, just super duper ice lungs? Yeah, like ice lungs or ice stomach or I thought that was cool. That was pretty bad. In a way, it was pretty badass because the only person that can actually do it without freezing their face off would be Mr. Freeze.
Yeah, so it was cool to see him do that.
That's funny that you said that because I was like, oh shit.
I also thought it was cool that they said basically if you put him at room temperature, he'd boil alive.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's a crazy idea.
I said that because when I read that part of the panel, I looked up. I was like, I was like, even like 50-degree what?
And you know what's funny? In this comic, in Batman and Robin, in most iterations of this, you don't even have to knock him down. You puncture the suit.
Yeah, or take off the helmet. Yeah,
or you do something with the suit and it becomes. It's like I remember because he's there on the floor like in pain, and Batman's like, he's down. I got him. He's down. Like I'm right here.
Yeah, it's like 10 degrees warmer, and I got a hole in my suit. Yeah,
it's terrible. Hey, can you stop this? But yes, that concludes City of Owls.
Ooh.
How do you feel? How you feel about this discussion? Do you think you're gonna continue your Bat journey? You think you might get into Volume 3?
I am. I will. Just I can't. I gotta finish the story, man. I can't leave it unchecked.
Yeah, unfinished. This was a challenge for new readers because this was a new Batman, but it's also a challenge for the new writer and the new artist. Greg Capullo, Scott Snyder. You have moments. The entire creation of the Court of Owls. The idea that when you're a comic writer or an artist and you get put on a brand new book, you want to leave your mark, right? So everyone leaves their mark like in the present or in the future. They just write a new villain and that villain shows up and then Batman throws them in the Arkham Asylum, and if another writer wants to reference them, they go ahead and they do it. Scott Snyder decided to pick a threat that's existed before Batman.
That was crazy.
And that was pretty smart.
I like that. That was mad smart.
That was pretty smart because no one is.
You know what's crazy? I think if it wouldn't have been less than better than what it is, I think people would have just considered it lazy ass writing.
You're right. And I agree with you. I think, like I said again, whenever something is revealed, it's one of the biggest comic book things in the world.
But you can tell they if there was something that that something was gonna be there. It was like, all right, if we're gonna be lazy, then we're gonna have to put in work to get this story across. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For something that's always been there to insert in the middle of Batman all willy nilly like that,
to hint that no matter what Batman book you've read or
reading, that they were always there. Yeah.
That's also a big deal. That's a huge deal.
So that was ill, and I'm glad that my mind has been blown a couple of times in this.
And so when you consider that they were even able to tie an old Batman story with the Thomas Wayne Jr. stuff, so now if you go back and read that and that car crash happens, you're like, oh, that happened because of the owls. And so it's such a cool idea. I thought they did a tremendous job on this. There's a lot of good books to start off reading comics, but I think that if you have any kind of background in Batman, this is extremely easy read, exciting, funny, tense, suspenseful. I guess it's time to get to that question. Do you think that there's an image, a page that you turn to, like cliffhanger?
Screw that! Turn this into a movie.
Oh well, it kind of is a movie. Batman versus Robin. It's an animated movie.
No, live action.
Yeah, well,
let's get the live action.
And I liked it more when it was just Batman against the owls. In Batman versus Robin, if you are listening, it's an animated film that is out by DC Animation. That book is more about the Talon telling Robin that his instinct is okay to kill, and
you're talking about Damian, right?
Yes. Yeah. That Damian's instinct is okay to kill, but the court is there, the labyrinth is there. Yeah. They do all that.
Oh, that's when they drop Damian on Bruce.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's cool. But yeah, they can totally make this a movie. They can completely make this a movie. If they have I mean, come on, DC.
I mean, I just wanted it to be a movie so that way I could get Damian in the universe, obviously.
Yeah. I think he's actually the easiest Robin to get in because you already have your excuses, my son.
Yeah.
It's a little bit harder with the other kids.
You just have Talia show up out of nowhere. Everybody will accept it. They know what's up.
Yeah, drop her on the doorstep. Especially since people know who Talia is now more than ever because of the trilogy, Nolan trilogy.
Al Ghul.
Yeah, the Al Ghuls are in the Nolan trilogy. The whole new 52 volumes of Batman are open for you, but I'm curious, is there any villain you want to see in this, with with this art style, with this writing style?
I don't know, because
you get to get the Joker.
Because right now,
this is a big book without the Joker.
Because right now the writing for the Talons is freaking flawless.
Right.
You know what I'm saying, and especially for how they did it.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like I would have to see the book just to see what's up.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Joker's coming up.
But I'm here for it though, man. I'm here for you. I'm here for you, Batman.
Look at that. We've converted another.
We here.
We've converted another, and we hope we are continuing to convert you guys all into comic book readers, comic book media enthusiasts, and do what I do. Go and get the research because I've never found a medium as rewarding as comic books. You do the homework and you get rewarded, where everything else kind of punishes you for knowing or remembering or anything else like that. It was extremely interesting to go into Mr. Freeze's origins and find out how little that they actually did for this man before going forward. It was crazy to hear that they already did the "I'm your brother, Bruce" storyline.
Yeah, that was crazy.
These comics have been going on for so long. Go back, do the history, find some books. We'll be here to recommend some books, and hopefully you guys are here for every installment of Major Issues, where we're hopefully tackling some of the latest and greatest things that come to comic books and comic book media.
Ooh, I'm gonna try to say that one day.
We're gonna get you ready for that. Speaking of episodes of Major Issues, on the last to prepare for this, I listened to our first Court of Owls review. Ooh. Some funny notes from that is I say, I hope we get to cover City of Owls. And we did, so that's good. I also say that we are trying our very best to get on Spotify.
Ooh.
But we are here
Hit
to
'em.
announce that Major Issues is officially on Spotify as of you're listening to this very podcast right now. We're on Spotify. There's no excuse whether you have an Android or an iPhone. If you don't want to download Stitcher, Podbean, Podcast Addict, if you don't want to go to Google and go to Major Issues Podcast and look us up, if you don't want to go to the iTunes Podcast app, all you have to do is go to Spotify and type in Major Issues Podcast into the search bar. Odds are you already have a membership. You've already been listening to unlimited songs. Go to Major Issues and we'll be there. We'll be there waiting for you on any device you can put Spotify on.
Subscribe.
Please follow.
You
Please
name
subscribe. Follow, subscribe. If you got friends that are into comics and you think that they could get something out of this, share it with them. And if you don't want to do any of that, the last thing I implore you, I please ask you to do is rate and review us on iTunes, because it's the quickest way for us to get feedback from you guys. I love reading the comments. I love reading the ratings and reviews of our podcast. It's something that we work very hard to do. So getting any kind of feedback, negative or positive, has been absolutely amazing. The numbers have been growing. You know, like I said, we started off just on Podbean, and the audience has grown so much that we are now available anywhere podcasts are found. So it's through you guys and through the vision, obviously, that I saw in the future. Yeah. Where I know that Major Issues becomes the greatest thing to come to comic books and comic book media. So thank you guys for our growth. Continue to help us to grow. I guess I can announce it here. Comic Book Clique's going to be at Comic-Con this year.
Yeah!
More
things.
At Comic-Con this year. So hopefully we'll be able to see you guys in the flesh, or maybe into some alien flesh, depending on all you guys want to cosplay as.
Ooh.
But yes, so much exciting things coming down the barrel. There's so much happening here at Major Issues and here at Comic Book Clique. So make sure that you go to facebook.com/comicbookclique, Instagram at Comic Book Clique, and use the hashtag Comic Book Clique to talk about the newest, hottest, latest, and greatest things to come to comic books and comic book media. And if you want to follow us on Twitter, go to Major Issues CBC, and you will get me, because I'm the one that operates the Major Issues Twitter. But like I said, again, we're on Facebook, Instagram, we're on YouTube, Spotify,
Expansion.
We're on iTunes, we are everywhere, so there's no excuse. Find us, link other people to us, get the clique growing in numbers, because that's what we need to do, especially in case these owls show up. If these owls show up, we got to be able to make the call, get your people on this.
To the clicks.
And thank you for listening this far, for this long, because this has been our New 52 Batman Volume 2 City of Owls review. My name is George Serrano, a.k.a. The Don.
And I am your Cloudus Maximus, a.k.a. I may not be trying to be Batman after this podcast. I don't know. Let's see.
And whether or not you are a vigilante, a member of a secret society, a killer assassin come back from the dead, or just one of the listeners of Major Issues, remember that you are worthy.